Okay, lots of big issues that are happening right now. I'm going to bring in Brian. Is it Festa?
Yes.
Okay, We the Patriots USA. I want to touch on several things, but the first thing, TikTok. A lot of people are concerned TikTok could be going away. And your organization, what are you doing? And tell me a little bit about it. What is We the Patriots USA, first of all?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit public interest law firm. We take on constitutional issues, constitutional rights, and civil rights. And that's a wide range of topics, right? So anything from free speech, religious liberty, health freedom, Second Amendment rights. I mean, we pretty much cover it all with a very small and dedicated staff. Yeah, so that's what we are. We're a public interest law firm. We also engage in education. So we put on events. We produced a film called Shot Dead. You can check it out, shotdead.org, about the COVID shots and the devastation that's been unleashed by them. So we do a little bit of everything, but basically the heart and soul is our litigation.
Yeah. People, I'm going to put your website up on the screen right here. What is the URL again? Is it
WeThePatriotsUSA.org?
Okay, so if people, I'll put this out there now. If people wanted to help, you're a nonprofit. You don't have the endless bankrolls like the government does. So you run on the support of good people helping.
Yeah, I mean, we go up against the government and also these large corporations and even, nonprofits on the other sides of these issues that are trying to fight to take our rights away. And they're funded by the likes of Bill Gates and George Soros and, Jeff Bezos and whoever else. So they've got, and the government, by the way, they get government grants in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So they're perfectly well funded for, decades to come. And we rely on just everyday Americans. All our entire budget is just comprised of ordinary citizens standing up to fight back against tyranny, tyrannical government edicts, orders, mandates, what have you. And we've been doing that for the last 4.5 years now.
Wow. I'll put the link in the video. If people are watching this, you can check down in the comments. I'll put the link down there to check it out. And before we move on, you just said something. Do you think more people are waking up? Here in Michigan, I actually thought Kamala Harris would win Michigan, but Trump won all the swing states. And I feel as if people are not buying into maybe the mainstream media. Do you feel as if there's a change among the average person? Are they starting to wake up?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I always have to put the disclaimer, we're a nonpartisan organization because we are a 501c3 nonprofit, but I will just say this, all right? Clearly there's a change. Nobody can deny that there's a change. When you looked at that map after this last election, and I'm with you, I thought Harris was going to win Michigan. Even though I spent time in Michigan this summer, I did meet with a lot of people who were very supportive of President Trump. I still had the feeling that somehow, I guess what I thought was going to happen, I thought we were going to have a repeat of a lot of the election fraud we saw in 2020. And so it's not that I necessarily believed that most of Michigan supported her and was enthusiastic for her. I just kind of had the feeling that there was going to be a lot of dirty business. But I think what happened is the Trump campaign got out ahead of it. They had lawyers already in court waiting. They had people at the polling locations watching already. So they weren't able to get away with what they got away with in 2020. Yeah, there's a definite sea change because, listen, this election was a referendum on the last 4 years, right? As it always is in a presidential election. And I think there was a resounding answer.
That leads us to TikTok. TikTok was responsible, I believe, for a lot of information getting out there and I found it interesting that during the last year, I actually had more content taken down on Meta than I did on TikTok. So when people talk about, interference and so forth, I myself found more interference from Meta, and it was actually real news articles that I was putting out, not, wild, crazy stuff. So you represent clients, one here in Michigan that I know I've had her on my show, Kristen, before, about TikTok. So what is your role in trying to save TikTok from being banned in the United States?
It's trying to save free speech and protect the First Amendment is what it's trying to do. I'm not going to make an endorsement of TikTok. I can't say that everything on TikTok is beautiful and wonderful and the stuff you should be watching. That's not the point, though. And that wasn't the point when the founding fathers and the framers of our Constitution wrote the right to free speech into the First Amendment. That wasn't the point. The point was we cannot have the government either compelling our speech or banning our speech. They recognized how dangerous it was to ban the sharing of information. So Bobby Kennedy Jr. is one of our co-plaintiffs. Kristen Megan Kelly from the great state of Michigan, a great friend of our organization and of mine, is one of our co-plaintiffs as well. And they both obviously have very large followings on TikTok. And We the Patriots USA is a plaintiff as well. We funded the entire lawsuit, so we paid for everything. And we did challenge the congressional action to ban or force the sale of TikTok. Now, one thing that I noticed, I'm saying I won't make an endorsement of TikTok, but one thing I did notice is that was the only pure video platform. I'm not talking about X because that's not a pure video platform. I'm talking about YouTube, I'm talking about Instagram and TikTok. Out of the three biggies, as I'll call them, as far as pure video platforms, TikTok is the only one that I saw consistently sharing content that was not censored. Short videos, reels. Yes, Rumble's great too. You might be thinking about that. But I'm talking about out of the big, they're not usually included in big tech because they haven't quite reached the level of obviously TikTok or X or something like that. But the videos that were shared coming out of Israel, what was happening in the Middle East, coming out of the aftermath of Hurricane Helene in North Carolina and Tennessee, they were showing what was actually happening without any censorship. And let me just ask you, Dave, when was the last time that you saw about 80% of Congress, both parties coming together overnight to pass a bill? That should raise the red flag right there.
Well, exactly. And what I'm seeing when that does go viral, when that North Carolina disaster went viral on TikTok, that forced my old employers in the mainstream media to then pick it up. So you're right. It did start there. And you're right about that. So the argument is, so there's a case it's going to the Supreme Court. That's not your case. You also have one though, right? With your clients.
Yes. So our case was filed a little bit later. So unfortunately, we're not part of that effort. However, we support that effort. And listen, the more voices that were involved in this, I believe it helps. Obviously, people read the news. They see the judges at the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals are aware that there's this other case as well that was filed with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That doesn't mean that makes it more important of an issue because the judges are just looking at the issues and the law, but it doesn't hurt, right? It doesn't hurt to have prominent people like Mr. Kennedy, and even I'll put Kristen Megan in that category as well. And even We the Patriots have prominent organizations fight and individuals with large followings on social media fighting back against this ban. That is noticed. They note that. Again, it might not make its way into the decision, and I'm not saying it's going to be the deciding factor in any decision that any judge makes. I don't speak for them. However, the bottom line is I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts to definitely have more voices and people putting their hats in the ring. So we've had cases. We've had petitions filed to the Supreme Court. We filed amicus briefs and all of that other thing. But in this particular case, no, that Supreme Court case in January is not our case, but it's a very similar piece of litigation.
What is your take on the government's big thing, and with your case as well, I'm sure, is that it is a national security threat. But I don't know if it has been proven that it's a national security threat. I've looked through everything. I've looked through the court filings. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have not seen actual evidence as to where it is a national security threat, or maybe that doesn't exist.
That's my point exactly. That's our point exactly. They have not met their burden of proving that there's such a compelling government interest like an imminent national security or a serious national security threat to justify taking away a fundamental right, which is the right to free speech. And that's what the government has to do. If you look at all of the case law about the First Amendment, whether it's free speech, religious freedom, the right to assemble, all of the rights embodied in the First Amendment and all of the Bill of Rights, actually, the Supreme Court has consistently said that the government bears the burden of showing that there's a compelling government interest, something really serious, and that you're doing it by the least restrictive means. That's the other prong they can't meet. This isn't the least restrictive means to completely ban the platform or force the sale of it. There were other security measures. If they really believe that there are security measures, how about this? If there's a security threat, how about this? How about using the technology they have at their fingertips from the FBI, from the CIA, which is supposedly from the Pentagon, which is the pinnacle. They've already had it developed. They don't have to spend money developing it. How about sharing some of that software with or placing it? They don't have to even share the intelligence. Letting the government, place some security software measures on their platform. I don't know how that would work. I'm not an IT guy, but I'm sure there would be a way to do that to make it secure so that they're not sharing their intelligence, but still place it on there. I mean, listen, there's how many hundreds of thousands of government employees use systems that are protected by that software every day, and they don't have any idea how it works. So there's other measures they could take. And if you think that, as far as national security threat and China spying on us, that's a red herring. That's I think it's BS, quite frankly, because first of all, China could spy on you through Facebook, through your cell phone, through Instagram and Telegram and anything else you're using. China can spy on you already. That's number one. And number two, this is an old argument. They used this as far back as the Patriot Act. National security. This is the Patriot Act 2.0. In fact, on my Substack, Free the Law, you can look it up. It's We the Patriots USA Substack. Free the Law. I have an article called The Patriot Act 2.0, and it's all about the TikTok ban, because that's basically what it is.
Okay, I'm on there too. I'll restack that and put it out there. It was interesting. I just thought when this passed, it was part of a group of legislation. I think, was it a budget, or in Congress, they don't pass stuff just by itself. The TikTok legislation was lumped in with a bunch of other stuff. That just seems a little not unusual. It's how laws are done in this country, but it was just lumped in with a bunch of other stuff as well. I would like to have seen it just vote on this itself, but I don't know. That's a whole other thing that Washington's dealing with right now, actually.
Right.
Where do you think? I mean, we can't predict, or can we, what the Supreme Court will do? We don't know, I guess, right? Or it just.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the Supreme Court. I'd get myself in a lot of trouble as an attorney if I do that. I could make a prediction. I could say what I think they should do, which is, if I were on the Supreme Court, I guess I would say that I would very much be in favor of striking down this ban. That's not news. Obviously, we filed a lawsuit, asking the court to do that, saying that it's unconstitutional, saying that it violates the First Amendment. I think that's pretty clear. Listen, again, I haven't seen every shred of evidence. I haven't been involved in the proceedings directly in this particular lawsuit, and I will not be one of the justices making a decision. But if I were, that's the way that I would rule. I am hopeful that they will rule this way.
Last thing I forgot to ask, Kristen, there's a lot of people, businesses that rely on TikTok. It's not just for, young adults to do dancing, and I've never danced on it and I never will. But there's a lot of people that rely on this for marketing, for business, for communications, to small business, right? This could be a big blow for small businesses, or millions of people.
Well, you're looking at one right here. We the Patriots USA has an account. We don't have a huge account. We don't have millions of followers. We would like to, but we're trying to grow. We're trying to use it to grow our business. We do post things on TikTok. And yeah, that would be detrimental to us as well. So again, they're not even saying that the content, they're not admitting that the content is offensive or something that they don't want to get out there. They're just using the red herring of the national security threat. That is the thrust of their legal argument. But clearly, it's clear to me anyway, and to anyone paying attention, I think, that the real reason they want it banned is because they do not want the content being shared. The mainstream media is their propaganda mouthpiece. But what they realize, what they're catching on to, is that social media platforms like TikTok, like X, are blowing up bigger than the mainstream media. And that's very dangerous to them because they don't have control over X and Elon Musk. They don't have control over ByteDance and TikTok.
Well, is there a worry? If this goes through, then what's the next step? What could they do next? That's always, you give them an inch, then are they going to try to go after Elon or go after X? And they can't use national security. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility. We always talk about those slippery slope arguments, and I definitely think that there's a very high likelihood that they will be targeting the other platforms after this. Now, again, we have a new administration coming in. So, do I think that President Trump will try to shut down X? No, I don't think so. But Congress is not under the control of President Trump. Congress still has a lot of people in it that would love to, obviously, would love to ban TikTok. Like I said, about 80% of them voted for it. And granted, we have some new people coming in, but it's not going to be an 80% turnover. Okay. It's only a handful of people, really, when you look at it, that are new. So most of Congress supports this ban, and they're the ones that did this. You know, so new administration or not, we still have to worry about what Congress is going to do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for talking about this. I will love to have you on again. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.